What has traumatized you the most? Story 1. Losing my fiancée in 36 hours after I proposed in 2009 due to a pulmonary embolism from her birth control. She was a beautiful soul and left us way too soon. I did all I could to save her, and it wasn't enough. Don't be sad they're gone. Be happy they lived, and you were part of their life.
All my love, forever love. I will see you again, but have some life to live first.
Answer. Mine was eliminated in a car accident about 7 hours after he proposed to me in 2010. It remains the single most traumatic experience of my life. Nothing could possibly prepare you for the whiplash that comes with going from "this is the rest of my life" to "my world just completely ended in a matter of hours." I hope you are happy and well now, friend. It takes so much to move through that, and it never goes away. Story 2. Getting molested by my great-grandfather, telling my family, then them saying if I told my great-grandmother would literally die. Story 3. Adult beverage. Living with an alcoholic as a kid is an absolute fudge nightmare. People wanting to ban plant substance cause bad, but are okay with adult beverage being legal are some of the dumbest motherfuckers alive. Answer. My dad drank himself to passing at 57. I don't think people realize how gross alcoholics are. When it gets really bad, they start to shoot themselves, and they get this sickly sweet smell that you can't ever forget. They fall and bruise black. They go into psychosis if their stomachs are fudge and they can't hold down a drink. They're abusive and demand you do things for them. They pass out and piss on the couch because they're too blacked out to know they have to pee. They have seizures. They don't clean up after themselves. They get scary when they're blacked out, and sometimes you can't hide. I could go on, but I won't. I started taking care of my tipsy dad when I was 11, after my mom fudged off, and decided it was a good idea I live with him. Story 4. Watching my brother commit tragic end right in front of my mom and I happened over 10 years ago, and it has fudged us both up in many ways. Answer. I had a neighbor friend kiss a shotgun while I was upstairs in my bedroom. Heard the shot and I knew immediately. Dude had been down bad, struggling with depression and alcoholism. Sat in the dark all day reading Bukowski and punching the walls. I knew what I was probably walking into gore-wise, but no amount of time on rotten and live leak can prepare you for the smell. Story 5. Had a terrible birth experience last year when I gave birth to my son. I got the epidural with my first and everything went smoothly, so I was going to opt for it this time as well. It was at a different hospital. I went to get the epidural done when I started progressing in my labor, and the woman who was going to do it was a practicing anesthesiologist. Not very experienced at all, which we didn't know until much later. She ended up poking me in the spine 2 to 3 times. Each time I knew something wasn't right. I was getting weird tingles in my neck and my chest felt like someone was sitting on it. And it hurt. A lot. Which isn't supposed to happen because they numb you. Turns out she ended up causing my spinal fluid to leak out. And when the epidural finally got taken out after my son was born, I had the most excruciating headache, neck and back pain I've ever had in my entire life. I couldn't even breastfeed or hold my son for more than a few minutes. I was in the hospital for a week and had to get transferred to a hospital for a procedure called a blood patch, where they tried to fill in the gaps from my spine so that the fluid stopped leaking. The doctor performing the procedure told me that I came close to being paralyzed. I then was transported back to the first hospital. The night after I gave birth, the night nurse we got was very brutal and mean to me. I called her in so that her and my husband could help me to the bathroom since I was in a horrible amount of pain and could still barely walk. She literally told me that all you did was have a baby, you're fine. Then proceeded to watch me struggle to get to the bathroom. Even after the procedure, I could barely move for a few more months. am literally terrified of ever trusting another anesthesiologist or nurses and decided I won't have any more children. Answer: I had a really bad birth about 5 months ago, too. It was my first. I had an inexperienced anesthesiologist when getting my epidural, too. I don't know what was going on back there, but I know he had to try a few times. I also felt some tingling. And eventually, the woman who was with him said, "Just let me do it." As soon as they left the room, I started puking uncontrollably. The nurse said it was a normal reaction, but it went on for a few hours. Nurses kept coming in and telling me to flip over and turn on my side and stuff, but I literally couldn't feel or move my legs at all. I don't know if some people who get epidurals can move, but I seriously couldn't at all. They seemed annoyed with me, but like I was really trying, and I physically just could not move a muscle in my lower body. Eventually, at one point, all these people came running into the room. I guess the baby and I were crashing. His heart stopped, and my blood pressure hit the floor. I was just puking, and I remember them running with me down the hall and someone saying, "We have 5 minutes." They left my husband behind and didn't even have time to explain to him what was going on. Move me onto the OR table, cut me open, and few seconds later, I heard my baby cry. I puked the whole time. Baby was totally fine, and eventually I was too. Though C-section recovery was no freaking joke. I didn't realize how painful that would be. I'd never heard anyone talk about it before. I'm very thankful for the nice nurses I had, but I had one really mean one too. She also acted like it was insane that I asked for help in the bathroom. Really awful, and not what I needed. I was super traumatized for a few weeks, but I'm mostly fine now. Though, yeah, going through that, again, does not sound appealing. Childbirth is no joke. Story 6. So in Iraq, we'd go on patrols daily. After a few weeks, a dude tried attacking the gate to our base and got literally ripped to pieces by bullets, then his chest rig IED exploded. Most of his remains were scattered and unrecognizable, except for the left arm, some neck, and the upper portion of his face, meaning upper jaw, nose, and eyes and general skull. Some of the head was missing, but enough to easily tell who it was if you saw a picture. Because of my position in the convoy, I had the unique opportunity to have to park beside his remains daily due to VIC spacing requirements. I got to watch as it seeped blood and brain matter, the swarms of flies, the slow rot and dehydration, and the gradual consumption by maggots. For 7 months. I don't want to say it was traumatic in the sense that I was harmed by it, given my occupation. But that stuck with me. And the smell of charring meat, some days it's worse than others. One of our other platoons was on split-section convoy, and they got hit hard by an IED. Eliminate 3 of the 5 occupants, and 1 died later. The guy was ejected from the truck, missing his legs and arm. Locals got to him first and were going to make a torture example out of him most likely, but they didn't have enough time because we got to the site pretty quick. But the locals had enough time to pull him away from the wreckage, stuff him in a pile of trash, and cover his remaining body with bags and cardboard to hide him so we wouldn't recover him. We found him because he was actively moving his remaining arm and shifting the trash, so we found him. He still died from blood loss and shock, but he wasn't taken, tortured, mutilated, and beheaded. I'm thankful for that. Answer: I feel for you. I have no military service personally, but a good friend of mine did 2 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. IED twice. He was a 50 gunner on vehicles and he was thrown out both times. Fudge up both shoulders. Dealt with really bad PTSD for a few years after coming home. Asked him one day about how his therapy was going and if he felt comfortable telling me what kinds of things that did for him to help. Said his worst memory was washing human remains, including children, off his Humvee one time. Therapy for that was reliving the experience each session. discussing sights, sounds,
smells, etc., and that he would usually puke each time. He's much better now, but my God, the horrors of war that you brave souls experience.
Story 7. My mom. I was subjected to physical emotional abuse by the person who was supposed to take care of me. Story 8. Being groomed and abused intimacy when I was 15 by a man in his 30s. Today, I can't accept compliments or any kind of positive attention from men. If I see a car that looks like his on the road, I pull over and hyperventilate. I can't kiss anyone that smells of cigarettes. I have a lot of problems with intimacy and personal insecurity. Even if I am in a healthy relationship, I question every move I make and blame any problems on myself. Leave teenagers alone.
Even though the abuse was probably short and small in his mind, the damage that those few short years did to me will last a lifetime.
Answer: I was groomed in violation at 13-14. My uncle, not the person who abused me, told me afterwards that 13 is too old to get molested because 13-year-olds are able to consent due to their body being ready to make a baby. He used the Virgin Mary as an example. That screwed me up for a long time. It took a year of therapy to get over a series of events that probably didn't total more than 20 minutes of my life. As luck would have it, my sponsor in AA was abused at the same age. Hearing her dealing with the same confusion and healing enough to call it what it was, violation, was the catalyst for me really beginning to have some compassion for myself. It is a long journey though. Story 9. Having a home destroyed by a tornado at night while I was in it. Having a child born with a defect that required surgery and having him develop meningitis after. Story 10. My ex-boyfriend passed away in October. He reached out to me 2 days before he passed after going no contact for over a month. He treated me terribly, yet painted me as the crazy stalker ex-girlfriend, even though he would always be the first to reach out. When he passed away, I was informed by one of his girlfriends, and she stated that I could not attend the funeral or any other services for him. I wasn't planning on going, but the way he managed to still break me even in passing absolutely traumatized me. Story 11. The guy that violationed me. I don't know his name. He was a complete stranger. I just remember his face all the time. I can remember being there like I'm there right now. I can remember it clearer than my own bedroom. Finally, after 2 years, I've reached out for some support with it. I'm scared, but it's definitely the first step. Story 12. I'm not sure what was worse, the stepdads physically abusing me or the stepmoms mentally abusing me. Story 13. My 23-year-old sister dying from a brain aneurysm on a random normal day with no health problems whatsoever. If I didn't have my child, I would have eliminated myself. So, yay? Story 14. The guy who tried to kidnap me over 30 years ago when I was 8 and myself when I wanted to eliminate myself when I was a teenager and got bullied in school. I try to keep either out of my mind, but when I drive by that area, I get what I think is PTSD flashbacks. I wish I had the money to move to a distant place so I never have to see that area again. Story 15. My last landlord, home share. It was never just a normal living situation. She always yelled at me, took advantage of me, used my niceness against me. She was 75, and I took care of her, even saved her life and few weeks later back to abusing me. Story 16. The realization that I have no tribe. I was only led to believe I was part of it while they fudged with my life. It took me 45 years to figure out what was wrong. Story 17. My psychotic mother. I was molested as a child and she said, "What do you want me to do about it?" I was hit by a tipsy driver who hit me in the sidewalk when I was 11 and she called me a cripple, then intentionally deported herself to her home country saying my half-sister, who she abandoned, was going to take care of her and that I'm useless. I was 18. Then she calls me a month later begging for money. I'm now 30 and sending her money because she's a useless and pathetic woman, but I love her. But I'm an alcoholic and substances addict, not to blame her, but the pain was too much. And my dad is an angel. He's been very patient with me. He knows the pain I'm in. I met a guy in rehab a little younger than me. I'm 30, he was 25. And he was incredibly sweet. Then he tells me he's going to prison. I'm like, for what? He said fleeing the cops, but something sounded off, so I searched for his charges, and it was for hurting a 12-year-old girl. There were articles and everything. This was 3 weeks ago, and I've been drinking every day since because I'm so disgusted. I want to die. Story 18. Betrayal of my mother. Always pitted me against my siblings, took the side of anyone that harmed me, claimed ownership of anything that belonged to me, blamed me for destroying her life cause she got pregnant and had to get married, and if I got any attention, she would say mean things about me, etc., etc. Whining now, remembering cause I answered to the yeah. Story 19. My dad eating a bullet is pretty damaging to start. But I think what fudged me up the most was picking his brains out of the carpet. But I couldn't let my mom see it. I couldn't let her walk into that room and see anything that happened from it. I needed her just to focus on herself and getting through the tragedy. So I cleaned everything before she came back in the house. I've been in therapy for over a decade, but I'll never be okay. Story 20. When I was younger, my uncle beat the crap out of me and put a gun to my head to teach me not to hang out in the streets. Story 21. My ex and his jealous, controlling, suspicious behavior, those kind games were awful. At least he's apologized afterwards once I broke up with him, but I'm still traumatized. Story 22. I have been through several traumas that were enough to diagnose me with PTSD, abusive relationship, alcoholic parent, near-passing accident. Nothing has traumatized me more than severe depression. Story 23. Ex-wife. Untreated bipolar disorder is not only ugly, it's mean, vicious, and dangerous. Instead of taking a mood stabilizer, she brought in a church group to cleanse the house of evil spirits. Didn't work, since there are no such things. I'm give you the highlight reel. Tried to start a fire in the backyard. Pretended she could no longer speak English. Took off to Florida for a month and a half with virtually no notice and no job. Leaving me to pay and care for everything, including our pets, for half a season. Called the cops on me for abuse that never happened. This hurt the most. 13 years together, not a finger laid on her, and she alleges abuse so she can get a restraining order and take the house. Got arrested, got knocked up while we were separated, and tried to hide it from the courts as we divorced, and her own lawyer. Defrauded the government to the tune of $43,750. Story 24. Cancer. Lost my dad to lung cancer when he was 54. I was 30. Lost my wife to colon cancer when she was 37. I was 42. Got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer myself at 41. Am now 44. Been doing chemo and raising a son as a single parent since 2023. Cancer sucks, but I'm at least blessed with good docs and a great support network of friends and family. Story 25. My mom's friend was in an abusive relationship. She and her kids stayed the night with us once at our apartment. The following morning, my mom, brother, and sister were walking out the door and her boyfriend was there waiting and shoved them out. I came out from my room because I heard yelling and screaming, only to see my mom's friend getting stabbed repeatedly. I managed to grab her kids and ran out the back door and into the courtyard where I begged a neighbor to call 911. Sometime between me running out and crying to the neighbor, the boyfriend also ran out and I saw him proceed to stab himself in the chest and neck. I was only 14. Story 26. 26M. The three girls who SA'd me at age 11 held my arms and grabbed my genitals, then kicked them, and the boy in class who SA'd me over a few months kept touching my nipples at age 15. First one. Very hard to trust women. It's hard for me to form relationships with them. Second one. Easier to handle since I don't date men. Don't need them. I work through it in the gym. No longer the small, helpless person. I'm short, but very strong and muscular. I was very stupid by not reporting it. No, I won't blame anyone for my poor decisions. I take accountability. Answer. Listen. I'm sorry you endured that. But you need therapy. You're clearly struggling to live life to how you want to live it. And carrying that trauma to all your future female relationships is harmful to you, especially because what happened is unlikely to happen again to you again. This experience is not normal and isn't something you should process alone with no help. Story 27. Being abandoned by your own church. I was 15 and doing a walk for Jesus where we went around holding signs for love and peace, and I ended up getting lost in a city I wasn't that familiar with. Walked up sketchy back neighborhoods and the highway until I called my mom crying. They were able to direct me back to the church. I was expecting my church, pastor, and those participating to be there, but it ended up being only my dad in his gray caravan, and the church all locked up and closed for the day. I looked like a fool walking around with a Jesus loves you sign and getting abandoned by the people that was supposed to be there for you. Really messed me up, and I never went back to a church after that day. Mom only got a half apology from the pastor as well. Story 28. For me, I dislike to say, but Christians, I realize not all of them are bad, just the holier than now, ones that like to use the Bible to degrade or put others down. It's made me reading the Bible has questioned my faith more than anything else, but hasn't turned me away from God. I just think it's kind of pathetic that people would use religion as an excuse to hurt others. To me, it is downright blasphemy. And even though I feel this way about some Christians, not all, I'll end by saying, good luck and God bless. Answer. Christians made me truly question my religion. Jesus was a Jewish Palestinian immigrant who was oppressed in life. He used his voice to heal and form community. He hung around with the undesirables of society. He saw humanity from the discarded. He treated disabled people in a way that allowed them to function in society again. Christians today would eliminate Jesus or cheer his takedown. So, Story 29. Difficult choice between my mom, mental and physical abuse, and a girl I used to be friends with who was a downright bully and also publicly manipulated messages before sharing them on Facebook. I lost a lot of friends because of that. Reputation was damaged, and I felt like I couldn't go out and risk being seen by anyone. Story 30. My exes. I've been completely single for 5 years, mostly on purpose. While I feel like I've healed, stood up for myself, and have made progress, I still notice that if I see something similar to my last relationship, I overthink and go back to the bad moments. I'd love to have a boyfriend again, but I know I get taken advantage of in every way very easily, so I don't put myself or someone else in that position again. I still have trust issues. Story 31. High school is the worst. Kids being bullied or being bullies, it's just a few years as a teenager, but everyone comes out with scars. Talk hard, pump up the volume. Story 32. My parents deciding to move us back to their country when I was a freshman in high school. I didn't speak, read, or write the language. I went from being on the high honor roll to being in high school in a different country without knowing how to read. Story 33. Father mental and physical abuse. Mother was emotionally unavailable because of the abuse she suffered from my father. Story 34. My ex-best friend. I now have trust issues and subconsciously push people away. It took me about 2 years to finally connect with another person and let my guard down. Story 35. Stepdad for sure. I'm on disability because of the trauma he very intentionally inflicted on me as a kid. Story 36. The ex who promised me the world and everything that is in it only to get into my pants and tell me he's not ready for a relationship literally the morning after he got me to bed. I never fully recovered from that shock. Story 37. The heart attack I had at the end of April. I had 5 stents inserted into my arteries and I had a 60% blockage. Story 38. My ex-mother-in-law. I left my country. I had a good job to come to this country with her son, and she was jealous when her son treated me nicely, verbally abused, and called me stupid, useless, although I had a job and contribute to the family, called my family as parasite because I sent my money back home to support my sick mother and nearly 100 years old grandma. I had depression and went to see the therapist for nearly 2 years to recover, and she is dying now with cancer. F you, Joyce, you deserve it. All the husbands left you because of your lunatic, and now your son left you. Enjoy. Your loneliness, Joyce. Story 39. My sister's ex-fiancé, who was also the brother of my sister's best friend. He violationed me when I got tipsy for the first time, with my door open at my mom's house. I knew everything that was happening but couldn't move or speak. Fudge him. That was 16 years ago, and I have never processed it. Story 40. My mom committed tragic end and left me alone, and my ex and his family totally ruined my perspective of relationships. I'm done with relationships. Story 41. Being bullied as a child. I was bullied by my mom, my sister, a whole host of other kids' teens in school, plus a French teacher. I still struggle with my own self-worth and confidence and am